this is Liz from People I Think Are Cool, a bi-weekly podcast where I interview my favorite creatives from across the globe. If you're looking for a dose of creative inspiration, then go to peopleithinkarecool.com or subscribe to People I Think Are Cool on iTunes and Stitcher.
You like film, from cult to classic, from blockbuster to B-movies. And there just isn't that one place with all the fan fervor and passion that's covering the kind of mad, diverse brilliance that you love.
Well, that's where you're wrong.
AfterMovieDiner.com is that fan-built movie nirvana just for you, featuring the sweet, sweet writings of the wife dork herself. AfterMovieDiner.com. Go there. Be the best you can be.
You are listening to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast, the official podcast of the Alamo Drafthouse Winchester.
Welcome to another edition of the ITMOD podcast. Joining us is Brian Young, the Turtle Dork.
End of the year, let's get this started.
Yep. And also joining us is Lisa Gullickson, wife dork.
Things are going to be shitty in new and fascinating ways.
And Brad Gullickson, mouth dork.
Crack an egg on it! Caca!
And ladies and gentlemen, Billy Das, the indie dork.
Your motherfucking mother said to open this door, and motherfuckers, you're going to open this motherfucking door.
And I'm your host, Darren Smith, the disco dork. While I am state of the art, I am not a ninja. And welcome to the ITMOD podcast, not top 10.
Yeah!
Yay!
Damn,
Not
if I'm
top-
the only one that didn't have a quote, shit.
Yeah, that's
I
correct.
wasn't
Come on,
prepared. I
You
wasn't
showed
prepared.
up late to the door
I
cave,
did.
Brian.
I did.
And you
We
missed
had
out.
so much time to research.
You had a whole
Quotes.
year.
Oh, well, we have a second part coming. So
That's
I'll
right,
be
because
ready.
this is part one of the not top 10.
As we do annually at the end of the year, before we go into and chronicle our favorite films of the year, our top 10, our dorkies, we provide our not top 10. So these are films that, for one reason or another, did not make the top 10. So yeah, I just want to jump right into it. I don't know about you guys. Did you want to say anything before we get into the nitty-gritty?
Brad, do you need to explain rules?
I'll explain the philosophy behind my not top 10 when it's my turn, Billy.
There you go.
Just asking questions.
And if Brian wants to explain his not top 10, he can.
It's
That's
all
a
movies
rule.
that
The,
suck.
the important thing, no, Brian, we're not doing negativity.
Oh,
No, we discussed it. I just,
Billy, if you don't stop poking that fucking bear,
I'm sorry. I apologize.
Man.
this is what Darren was trying to avoid because he knows that there's all these rules that I have and philosophies, and he just wanted to get the roll going. Brian,
The testosterone in this room
Brian.
is just overwhelming.
I got a feeling throughout the night we're gonna have some nice little banter between Indy and Mouth Door.
yeah, this is already going to be like a 10-hour episode,
Yeah.
so I should just shut up. Shut up, Brad.
Oh man. Okay.
Settle in.
All right, so I'm kicking it off. All
Yes,
right,
sir.
number 10. So my number 10 is the animated film called Bilal, A New Breed of Hero. This is currently number 33 on my list.
Oh, you're going to...
Wow.
Yeah, I thought that's normally... I remember Lisa did that last year.
Yeah.
we
My
did.
top 25 currently contains 38 movies.
Mine's too. Okay. So it's currently number 33 on my list, but it's definitely a movie I wanted to highlight because this was a movie that kind of snuck up on me this year. It was a movie that was produced about 3 years ago, and it had released, I believe, overseas, but it finally had a theatrical release over here in the United States, and it really only played in like one theater for like a week. So when I read about this film and found out about it, it was playing at the theater. I think it was over there at Silver Spring, not the AFI, but the Regal Majestic. And so I went there and saw it, and I really enjoyed this film because it's really telling the story about, let me pull his name up, Bilal. Goodness, I just had it up. I am so sorry. Bilal Rabah. And he is... he was taken as a child when his parents were killed and put into slavery, and it kind of tells like this heroic journey of this particular character. And we talk a lot about representation for like for people of color this past year, and this one really does kind of celebrate a hero within like the kind of the Islamic and Arabic community. And going to see this movie in the theater, you saw a lot of people coming out to really kind of support this film. and it's produced by a production company called Barrajon Entertainment, which is a small production house. And the animation is okay. People can probably compare it to like video cutscenes and stuff like that, but you can definitely see and feel the passion behind the projects that the filmmakers have for this material. And so I just kind of admire just the tenacity that these filmmakers did to really get this movie seen here in America. And it's been a long journey over the years, and I don't know, it's a movie that's kind of stayed with me since I saw it back in February.
I'm sorry.
And
Did you say it was based on? Is this a real historical figure?
I believe it's a real historical figure around 632 A.D. And so yeah, he's really big in the Arabic community as well, Arabic culture. So yeah, I don't know. It was an interesting story for me to see, and I just really dug it. I really dug this
Every
film.
time you bring this movie up, I feel like a terrible friend. Because Brian has been talking about this movie for such a long time, and I always go, "Oh man, I need to watch this movie," and I never do.
Yeah, it's kind of it just got released about a couple of months ago for rent and for sale on iTunes.
So it's been available, Brad.
Yeah,
Brad,
it's been available for a while, and I can't guarantee that any of you guys will love it or even like it. I just found it to be interesting for this story to kind of be told from this very, very small production company.
Well, I'm putting it on my list to watch before we record the Dorkies next week, so I'll have at least watched that.
Yeah.
Ian McShane is a voice talent in it.
Yeah, they have.
Holy shit.
They have Ian McShane, Adewale Agbahe. He plays the adult Bilal. So they did bring in some heavy hitters to do some voice acting for the United States release of this film. So pretty cool. I love the score. The score is just really, really has this very sweeping, epic score to it. I think it was really, really good. I enjoyed it.
All right, wife dork.
Yes.
What do you got?
So my number 10. In years past, I've reserved my number 10 for something that I've seen and I would usually include in my weekend dork. But because we do the dorkies, it kind of just falls into the abyss. But luckily, the movie Brad and I saw last night, I enjoyed it so much that currently on my top 25, which contains 38 films, it landed at number 17. I
nice.
really enjoyed this movie, and the movie is Mary Poppins Returns.
Nice.
I enjoyed this movie so much. It was directed by Rob Marshall, who has done, he did Chicago, which actually won Best Picture, and I think of his 3 musical adaptations, not including this one, it's probably his best one.
Chicago?
Yeah, I'm still not a huge fan. He also did the adaptation of Into the Woods and of 9, all of which are just kind of iffy. But what I loved so much about Mary Poppins Returns is it's the first musical I've watched since my actual childhood that is like the movies I grew up on, where it's a movie about songs and the plot is just kind of like a through line to take you from number to number to number.
Yeah.
But I still really enjoyed the message of Mary Poppins. She goes to children who, for one reason or another, are taking life too seriously, and the whimsy of childhood is slipping away, and she just comes into their life to restore faith and restore joy and remind people to be in touch with their inner child and just wonder and use their imagination. So just a quick plot summary. Jane and Michael Banks have now grown up. Michael is still living in that house.
Played by Ben Whishaw.
Yes, Paddington.
Yeah.
And he has 2 kids of his own, and his wife has recently passed away. So
3 kids. He has 3, right?
Yes, he has 3.
Okay.
And his wife passed away a year ago, and they've been kind of having to fend for themselves while Michael is dealing with work and the emotional devastation of losing his wife and having to change his aim in life because he really wanted to be an artist, but now he's working at the bank like his father. And and it's also during what they're calling the Great Slump. So there is a depression on, and now Jane has grown up to be the crazy aunt. So the crazy aunt in the original Mary Poppins was a suffragette. So she is working for unions to create fair labor. And so then Emily Blunt flies in and she creates magic, and it's beautiful. And I knew I was enjoying the movie. There's this one scene where, just like there was like the huge animated section in the original Mary Poppins, they have a scene where they escape into the painting on a china bowl. Yeah. And there's a great number called "The Cover Is Not the Book," which I guess is the equivalent to supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. And it's just kind of an opportunity to dance and, you know, sing quickly. Lin-Manuel raps a little. He does a little Hamilton style for a hot second.
I noticed that. That was cool.
And I was like, okay, yeah, this is a solid 3. I'm really liking this movie. And then they get to the number of Tripping the Light Fantastic, which is just a straight up dance number. So in the original Mary Poppins, there were the chimney sweeps. Mm-hmm. Well, in this movie, they are now, what are they called?
Lamplighters.
Learys.
Oh,
and so they don't have the brushes. They have these like crazy looking, you know, ladders so that they can climb the ladder to light oil lamps. And they also have these cool torches. And so they're jumping off of ladders and flipping torches and just being athletic. And it's just so fun.
Riding BMX bikes.
BMX bikes. That reminded me of Hook, another movie that is near and dear to my heart. So
this was very Hook-like.
So, when I got to the end of the film and they have a "let's go fly a kite" type moment where the Ben Whishaw finds himself laughing and smiling and enjoying the company of children and watching his children be children, even though they have to deal with the loss of their mother, and that's always going to be a part of their story and always be a part of their life, where I just started weeping. I just thought it was just so beautiful, and it reminded me of the Muppets because of like everybody's in the sky and floating around. It's just like, I don't know, I just thought it was just, I just really loved it. Nice. So that's why. And like for me, I'm starting in my head, like there are a few movies this year that have captured like my worldview, that create a holy trinity for me, and Mary Poppins is part of that trinity. Also on that, spoilers I guess, is Paddington Bear, If You're Kind and Polite, The World Will Be Right, and Fred Rogers, where these are just people who are like, you are special, you are unique, you are great company. Just do your best, be kind, you know, celebrate what's individualistic about you, and, you know, have fun, have whimsy, have wonder, you know, marvel at things. I don't know. I freaking love it. Mary Poppins, my number 10.
Be your number 10.
Well, jumping off of, it's my number 10.
Okay.
I'm going to explain it, Darren. I'm going to explain it.
I was just going to say, or your...
My not top 10. Okay. Not top 10. Jumping off of Lisa's point about kindness and pursuing empathy and what have you. In the past, my not top 10 has been peppered through by, you know, the worst film of the year or my most disappointing film of the year. And that was usually my number 10 spot. But given the world of 2018 and watching films like Mary Poppins and Paddington 2 and the Fred Rogers documentary, I don't have it in me anymore to discuss things that disappoint me or things that I hate or dislike or that are my least favorite. So I'm done with that mentality. So in that spirit, what I want to do with my not top 10 is celebrate the films that surprised me, that I cherish, and that didn't quite make what will ultimately be my dorkies.
Right.
So for this episode, the Not Top 10 Part 1, my 10 through or actually, my 10 through 6 are my biggest surprises, ranked in order. Stop
I made him
talking.
double think it.
Yeah, you did. It was all in my head, and you've messed me up, Billy. So it's my 10 through 6, my favorite surprises of the year. Not necessarily going to make my top 25, but the honorable mentions.
Right.
And like Mary Poppins, the first film I want to talk about is a movie that I think speaks to the same things. It's a filmmaker I generally really dislike. I tend to actively.
I thought we weren't skewing negative, Brad.
Well, normally I don't like his films. I find them horrendous and repulsive, and they repel my spirit. But this year, the way you were surprised by Mary Poppins, Lars von Trier's The House That Jack Built truly surprised me.
Shit.
I was almost immediately drawn in by this portrait of a serial killer, this horrendous, horrific creature played by Matt Dillon, the titular Jack. And the way the film is constructed is over the course of 5 incidents, and each incident being a moment in which he kills somebody. And in 4 of the 5 incidences, there are moments in which he kills a woman. And they are hard
It is a Lars von Trier movie.
and ugly and disgusting, like a Lars von Trier movie. And at times they are done to comedic effect, or you're questioning what the effect is of the violence. And then the entire film, there is a narration occurring between Jack and another person who you're not told who he is, played by Bruno Ganz. And over the course of these 5 incidences, these two personalities are having a conversation about art and this incredibly pretentious debate about the power of creativity in the human spirit, while you're also watching Matt Dillon smash Uma Thurman's face in with a tire iron. So it's not for everybody.
Okay.
And a lot of folks will probably be disgusted and repelled by him the way I am by films like Melancholia and Antichrist and things like that. But this was a movie, by the end, it truly surprised me. I can't stop thinking about it. It's hard to talk about or really to praise without discussing the climax of the movie and the relationship between Bruno Ganz and Matt Dillon and where that goes and develops. But cinematically, it was incredibly exciting. Could I have done with 1 or 2 less incidences of brutal murder? Maybe. But as is, I really enjoyed this film. It narrowly missed my top 25 movies of the year.
Now, I know that Alamo, they showed an unrated version, and then there's an R-rated version.
There is,
So
yes.
which one?
I saw the unrated version.
So you haven't seen both to see the difference between.
And I haven't done any research. I can just guess that they probably remove a few frames of bludgeoning and breasts being cut off and turned into purses.
So it wouldn't change
say
anything.
What?
It's a Lars von Trier movie.
Yeah, it's a Lars von Trier movie. But like I said, I like this one.
So it wouldn't be an edit that would change the narrative of the film.
I don't think so. I am curious to watch the R-rated cut, and I will do that someday.
Okay.
This is not a movie that you watch, the next week and you go this was a riot. Although, like I said, it's oddly funny at times. But then you're like, I need to commit some 40 lashes to get this evil off of me.
I hate Lars von Trier.
I know you do.
And
And
I will
I
not
normally
watch any
do
of his
too,
movies.
Billy.
But I tell you what, when you described what the conceit of that relationship is to me, I even nudged me just a little bit. Maybe I should look at it. It still settled on hard no, but it caught my
Billy,
attention.
you like the most messed up and
I know.
perverted and demented movies.
I know.
And I'm sure you're going to name some movies on here that I will find equally disgusting as The House That Jack Built. I think you're just prejudiced against Lars von Trier because he's kind of a jerk too. Not kind of. I mean, he's
I was
going
gonna
to
say
jerk.
kind of.
And
Yeah.
maybe a monster.
Not to skew negative.
Not to skew negative. Yeah. So there you go. That's my number 10.
All right. What do you got, Billy?
All right. So for my list, I just wanted to talk about 10 movies that didn't quite make my top 10 list, but were ones that regardless of where they wind up on my top 25 or top 100 of the year or whatever, are the ones that I tend to continue thinking about. So on that front, my first pick, my number 10, is All the Creatures Were Stirring, which is a horror anthology by Rebecca McKendry and David Ian McKendry, her husband. They wrote and directed 5 or 6 episodes in the course of it. I guess it depends on what you characterize the wraparound sequence as. But I think the thing that appeals to me most about this movie is, my handle obviously is the indie dork, and I would say that it's pretty fair that, I don't know, man, like everybody in the indie horror community is in All the Creatures Were Stirring. So it's definitely, I think, not just a product of Becca and David's passion for the horror genre and what they find hilarious or horrific, but is also a reflection of kind of the giving spirit of the horror community in their area, and the way that people will come together and support their projects of their friends and given their time to it, even if they have other things going on sort of at a higher bill in their life. Plus, the experience of seeing it was the first time we saw it. Brad and I saw it at the Chattanooga Film Festival, which was just a lovely place to go. But the theater was populated again by the majority of the indie horror community. And then, it was weird to sit, Joe Bob Briggs was there. We sat in a theater and watched All the Creatures Were Stirring with Joe Bob Briggs.
He loved it.
And he fucking loved it. He laughed through the movie. It was there's in the wraparound sequence, there's kind of an old guy who occasionally laughs at stuff. And while Joe Bob Briggs doesn't laugh exactly like that, that sort of was the effect that I had. Is that you could just be sitting and watching this movie and occasionally hear that dude just bust out with laughter at something that was going on. But I would say that it isn't just sort of the experience of watching it for the first time. I actually find the sense of humor that they put into it to be right up my path. It's dumb and it's nerdy, like off-puttingly nerdy at times.
Right, those both sound like you.
Dumb and off-puttingly nerdy. I'm saying this in full awareness. I know what I'm about. But no, like they were big theater nerds in not in high school, in college. And so they would do a lot of that black box theater shit where they would go out and dress all in black and do these weird low number of lines kind of emotive things with just black costumes and black boxes, and it was just weird art. And then they would spend their time on the weekends going out and watching kind of these colorful shows, and hearing them talk about that being their pastime, it's easy to see how that influenced everything that went into All the Creatures Were Stirring, because there's a lot of colorful comedic horror in it, but the wraparound is a full-fledged Brechtian black box theater gag, which I just fucking ate up every second of it.
This is how you sell the movie, Billy. There is a short film in this in All the Creatures That Were Stirring. All the Creatures That Were Stirring? Whatever. That is a giallo.
Yes.
From the point of view of a reindeer.
Yes.
Santa's reindeer.
Yes.
That goes around slashing and stalking people because of something that has gone wrong with this reindeer.
Yeah.
Or wrong that has been committed against this reindeer.
A reindeer.
A reindeer.
A reindeer. Yeah, cause, every time Becca would talk about it, because we did an interview with her for Film School Rejects, but every time she would talk about it, she would go, an unnamed, non-copywritten reindeer who may or may not be connected to a red light.
It's totally Rudolph.
yeah, it is totally Rudolph. But you put Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer in there, but a giallo film has a lot of red tinting to it, and so they lean way the fuck into the Christmas gag with the red tint through the entire shooting of that sequence.
It's basically the opening of Halloween, but from the point of view of a murderous Rudolph.
Yeah, totally accurate.
Fun.
But anyways, and then that cuts back to the Brechtian Black Spock theater gag, where it's just the best use of red ribbon and sound effects. Anyways, so that's a lot of fun with that one. That's my number 10 pick.
All right. I am also going to be talking about films that I enjoyed this year that just did not make my top 10 because there were 10 other films that I happen to like a little bit more or a lot more. So no stinkers on my list. And I'm just gonna go in chronological order from the beginning of the year to leading up to now.
That's how you introduce a not top 10.
So I'm going to start back in February, and that is Deadpool 2. So,
Dude, was that this year?
yeah.
It's been a long
Right.
year.
Well, no, that was in May.
Was it?
Deadpool 2 was in May.
Oh, fuck you then, Brian.
So I mean,
Still this year.
I mean, yeah. But,
All right. Well, let me do. When did Hotel Artemis come out?
that was June.
God damn, what came out before both of those movies?
It depends on what's on your list.
All right, you fucked everything up, right? Because I'm pretty sure none of the listeners knew any of those facts.
Don't fact check
Just
us.
go with Deadpool 2.
I'm gonna go with it. I'm gonna edit all that other shit out. Anyway, so I got Deadpool 2 on my list because of one particular scene. I found a lot of the gags funny. I did have some issues with the film, but there's a moment in the theatrical cut where at the end, Wade Wilson, he takes a bullet for Fire Hands and
Fire Fist.
and he dies.
Not to be a Brian.
So through the movie opens with spoiler alert, the death of Vanessa, and after that, Deadpool he just wants to kill himself. He wants to blow himself up. He doesn't want to be alive because he wants to be with her. He does not want to live without her. So throughout the movie, he's finding his purpose, and at the end, he takes a bullet in a selfless act, and he is finally allowed to die and reunite with Vanessa. So the scene that the reunion scene is a play on Aha's "Take on Me" video, while there's an a cappella version of "Take on Me" being sung. And yeah, it's cheesy. It could be cheesy, but the fact that firstly they're paying homage, there's an 80s reference, which there's a lot of in both this movie and the other movie. There's an 80s reference, but the fact that they take the concept of the video, and if you've seen the video, if you don't remember, it's animated. It's a hand-drawn animated. So it's rotoscoped actually. But there's a moment in the video when the guy who's singing the song, he meets the woman, his girl, and they're on opposite sides of, I think it's a mirror or a window. And he when he comes through the other side, he is in live action and he's no longer hand-drawn animated. Well, they play on that in Deadpool 2, where he comes through a barrier to be with Vanessa, and when he comes through, he's no longer the scarred. He's no longer the scarred Wade Wilson. He is his normal self. He's the Wade Wilson that first met Vanessa. And the first time I saw it, I was moved by it. But the reason why I made my list is because even on subsequent viewings, like, I'm moved by that scene. And, Josh Brolin is great as Cable. Zazie Beetz is phenomenal as Domino. She is not in that movie nearly enough. She needs her own movie. And the action and the action set pieces, I found were done really well. And overall, I had a good time with the movie. But it's that emotional beat at the end tied into the 80s reference that all the other references in the movie are used for, like, humorous effect. And for this one, they used it for an emotional beat. And I just found it incredibly moving. And so, he's back with her and she says, "I love you." And then, Cable, of course, undoes the past so Deadpool can live. So he has to go. And so she tells him, it's not time. And that moment is so bittersweet because he's been dying to be with her. And now that is taken away from her, but it's taken away from him, but it's taken away for a good reason. And that moment where he's leaving and he turns around and she says, "Hey, kiss me like you miss me, Red," which is a throwback to, early in the film. I just found it super sweet. So I don't know. I just enjoy watching that movie. So yeah, that's going to be the first one on my list. All right. Brian, the next one, you're number 9.
So my number 9 is number 27 on my list, my overall list, and that is the film Supports the Girl.
Yay!
Yeah.
Oh,
What's wrong, Lisa?
somebody forgot this movie when she was putting her top 10 together.
No.
Oh my goodness. Well, add add 1 to all of the numbers I say.
Okay.
God damn it.
Yeah. This is currently a 27, but it's definitely one of my favorites of the year. I absolutely adored this film. I mean, this is basically it's a day in the life of Lisa, played by Regina Hall. And we catch her. She's a manager of kind of like this interstate sports bar and grill. And it's like I said, it's a day in the life. And we start out the film, and she's already, when she gets there, is having a rough day. I mean, we see her in the car crying and trying to get ready for the day. And the thing I love about this movie is the fact of how it makes me miss the days of having a good manager. I mean, just everything from her point of view, like the things that she has to juggle, dealing with all the personalities of all the girls that work there, everything she's dealing with in her personal life at home with her husband, dealing with the owner of the restaurant, Cubby, and how he's always breathing down her neck. She's got a lot to juggle in this movie. And, of course, there's also another story where they're trying to raise money for another one of the girls with an incident that happened. And then everything that happens with that. I mean, Regina Hall, she's such a good-natured person in this movie. She's shouldering a lot on her plate, but she seems to handle it. And I love the way, the respect and the love that she has for her employees. I literally said, like this is how a manager should treat her, should treat their employees. Like, even there's an incident when, and I don't want to give too much away, but there's an incident when she has to let somebody go. And she doesn't want to do it, but she says, look, I'll let you finish out the day. She was like, I'll give you a good reference. I'll do this, I'll do that. But she knows she still has to stay firm with keeping the business afloat and stuff like that. But I just seeing her go throughout this film, man, I just absolutely love watching this movie. And then the ending, when they finally are able to kind of have that release, it's just so cathartic, not just for those characters, but even for us watching these characters go through what they have to go through. And, of course, there's 3 main characters. Regina Hall is Lisa, and then there's 2 of her waitresses, Haley Lou Richardson, who plays Macy, and Shayna McHale, who plays Danielle. And she's also an artist, but goes by the name of Jungle Pussy.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Hey.
It's just interesting.
All right.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
That's your band name?
I don't know, but it's interesting. Anyway,
It's a choice.
I'm glad you enjoyed this. I had a feeling you were really going to like it.
yeah, and I'm glad you guys recommended this to me because I missed it in the theaters. I know it wasn't playing a lot of places. I know Andy, shout out to Alamo Winchester, they had some showings out there. And I was able to catch it on iTunes. Shout out to iTunes because iTunes is helping me out a lot, especially these last couple weeks.
I need that shout out.
But yeah, I really dug this film.
Yeah.
I really dug this
Cool.
film. Yeah, so that's my number 9, which is number 27.
Oh man, you just fucked up so much shit for me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What you
I
got,
can't
wife, doing?
believe I left it off. Oh, okay. Oh, it's my turn.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna go with the documentary next. A second ago, it was number 29 on my list. Now it is number 30.
Oh man.
We got to watch it as part of Lost Weekend 10 at the Alamo Winchester, and that is Bathtubs Over Broadway. I loved this documentary. It's one of those that just celebrates being a nerd and how by being a nerd your weird dreams can come true in a way.
We know that for a fact,
Yeah,
actually.
Yeah.
the truth.
So the documentary follows Steve Young, who is a late night writer, who has an insatiable obsession with the industrial musical. So what an industrial musical was and is companies would have have you ever companies would have convocations where they would bring a bunch of their salesmen or representatives or whatever to one place, and they want to have kind of a pep rally atmosphere. They want to celebrate what they've done or maybe get some kind of new ideology across, and they would do this by putting on a musical
Brad, didn't you used to do that with Barnes & Noble when you flew out there and you'd have like the managers meeting? They did that shit, right?
Yeah, he sure did.
Was there an industrial musical about Barnes and Noble?
No, it was usually
can get
Sarah
20% off if you are a member.
That's good. We should hire him.
Throughout the film, the way Steve got into them was by finding records. So as part of their like parting gift after their big event, they would send their employees home with a pressed record of their musical.
Oh.
And they end up where you would find records. They'd end up in used record stores and antique shops, and there is a very small community of industrial musical enthusiasts. So they've been doing industrial musicals fairly recently, up through the 80s. And he interviews some famous people that have been in industrial musicals. Martin Short did them, Cheetah Rivera, Florence Henderson did industrial musicals, and Cheetah Rivera did industrial musicals. Susan Stroman, who is a multiple Tony Award-winning Broadway actress, has done them. And it's really like, it's like the old tale about, the guy who is in charge of making sure that the elephant's bowels are clear before they go in the circus. It's like, it's still show business. I've always wanted to be in show business. It's like literally a thankless job. It would take all of the work that it would take to do a real Broadway musical, except for, 100 people would see it, and you would put it up once and you would never do it again. And the thing that I found there were two things that really I found just moving and beautiful. One of them is some of these people grew up to be Florence Henderson or Martin Short, but a lot of these people, this is the biggest thing they've ever done. And there is one particular industrial musical called The Bathrooms Are Coming by a fixture manufacturer. And there's a song, and the song plays in my heart all of the time. Bathroom, my bathroom is a very private place. And there were these two. It was composed by Hank Beebe, who has composed several industrial musicals, and Steve Young talks to them. But he also talks to the two stars of The Bathrooms Are Coming, Pat Stanton, Jonola, and Sandra Geller. And these are women who did this show, worked really hard, are extraordinarily talented professionals, obviously. But they really thought that they did that and nobody cared, and they just disappeared. And through this documentary, he's been traveling with it and showing it, and he's brought these women with him, and they perform, and they sing their little bathroom song. And they're just kind of like these just unsung people. And I just think that I find that just so moving. And then I'm going to spoil the end of this documentary. No, I'm so sorry.
I haven't seen it yet.
What? Too bad. Because I find this, if I haven't sold you already.
I'm taking my cans off.
If I haven't sold this already, I'm still in the room with you.
No.
At the end of this musical, of this movie, Steve Young gets to be in a musical number with all of these people that were in the documentary. So he gets to, sing, and they have a proper set, and it's just so I was all verklempt at the end of that movie.
Were you hip to this prior to the documentary? Did you know?
No, I had no idea. No. And I went to the Wikipedia to try and, because I was trying to find who were the cast members of Bathroom the Musical, and there's just a very short kind of wiki of it and just a list of a handful, but this was common practice. So The Bathrooms Are Coming is from American Standard, but car dealerships, Oldsmobile has 4 listed here, Westinghouse, Coca-Cola, the Coca-Cola one is called The Grip of Leadership. Xerox is Take It From Here, so I don't know, General Electric did them. Dodge, So
That's crazy. That's
so yeah,
interesting.
but how fun would that be? Because to see a live musical, it's bad enough that you have to go. You're probably living in some hotel somewhere, going to meeting after meeting after meeting. I would love to see a musical. I don't give a shit what it's about. So I don't know. I don't know.
All right.
It's really fun.
I need to watch that movie.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
great.
you really do.
It's great.
All right. What do you got, B? Number 9.
For number 9, this was a movie that I remember hearing out of Sundance, like this buzz. They saying like, you know what? It takes this gimmick. You've seen this gimmick before, and damn it, it's amazing. And I was filled with a lot of doubt that they could pull it off until I sat down, and 10 minutes into this movie, I am crying. And that is Searching,
Yeah.
the
Yeah, that's a
desktop
good pick.
film.
That's another one I need to watch.
You
See,
should-
now,
Ryan,
you like
you
that
will
one,
love
man.
it.
I think
you
you dig
like
it.
it.
I think you dig it. It's
Yeah.
directed by Anish Chaganty and co-written by him and Sev Ohanian as well. And we've seen Unfriended, and Unfriended was interesting. I remember going, well, this is a new take on the found footage kind of twist.
Yeah.
But what Searching is yes, it's all on a desktop. John Cho, his daughter's gone missing, and his entire investigation is displayed through his computer or the various electronic devices that he comes in contact to. And what's amazing about the movie is how Chaganty embraces cinema, like the techniques of cinema. So even though it's a desktop, you're not trapped to that one shot. There are pans, there's dollies.
Okay.
They move about the screen using all the tricks that have been created over the past 100+ years of the medium.
Interesting. Okay.
And it's amazing to watch. Okay. And that moment where I'm talking about, why I was crying, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but it sort of feels like one of those Google commercials, right? Where you see a person's life all through their digital footprint.
Okay.
And it all plays for you in the span of, 5 minutes maybe. And that sets up the emotional connection of this family.
Like Up.
It does.
Exactly.
I reacted to it like Up because there's a sadness to this digital footprint that occurs, and it sets that up, and now you are fully invested after 5 minutes of watching this Google commercial in the plight of John Cho and his missing daughter, and the film still manages to fulfill the needs of the mystery. I was thinking, I'm ahead of I know what's going on. I know what's going on. Oh, no, maybe I don't. Well, now I do. Oh, maybe I don't.
It's like Serial the movie.
Nice.
Yeah, and done through this gimmick. And you get done watching the movie and you go, I'd watch some more, screen life movies. And if producer Tamir Bekmenatov has his way, we're going to have an onslaught of screen life movies. And I don't know if I necessarily want to see that. But damn it, I came away from this movie going that Anish Chaganty and Sev Ohanian are amazing talents, and I'd watch anything that they would do. Okay. And John Cho, like, the movie only survives because John Cho is an incredible actor.
Yeah.
So do you think that just like with found footage movies, that we'll start getting more films like this or of quality?
They're going to try. They would like to. The producers, not necessarily these filmmakers. I actually had the opportunity to talk to both of them for Film School Rejects, and they said, "Well, good luck to our producer. We've done our version, and we nearly killed ourselves making it, and it's a tremendous, time-consuming process. They filmed the movie in 14 days, and then they took 2 years to edit it.
Oh my god!
Yeah, you would have to.
Yeah, so it's a beast. And,
I think what's fascinating about Searching for me is that, like, the way that we talk about our electronic lives and social media is that they're impersonal and disposable. And if you sit through and watch Searching, what you discover is that I think that on the surface appears to be true, but there's a lot of emotional depth and truth to what we commit to things electronically. And it's a really fascinating, like just to look at that, it's a really fascinating exploration of what we capture in social media and what that can tell people about ourselves.
Well, right. The idea of, well, I've set up a Google Calendar to have this event. And now when I delete this event from my Google Calendar, Niagara Falls, Brad, Niagara Falls.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, there's one point he's going through some old videos and he's looking at this video of his daughter as a child and some things that she's saying in the course of that video. Like I said, I don't want to give any of this away, but like she shares some things that a child would share about their father and their admiration for them. And you watch his reaction to it and you watch what the cursor's doing as he's thinking about it. And it's amazing how much of the interior that simple thing conveys.
And this idea that, it's all happening on the screen, and because they're using these tricks of cinema, your eye is going someplace else, and they're doing that magic trick where, like, there's something else going on the screen that you really should be paying attention to.
Wow.
It's really stunning. It's built for Blu-ray. This is the type of movie you watch once, you go, well, I'm going to watch this 7 more times and catch all the things that they're putting out there on this screen.
Okay.
It's really impressive piece of work, especially for a first-time filmmaker. That's fucking crazy.
I'll watch it this week. Yeah, I'll write that up.
All right, Billy, what do you got?
All right. So my second pick, my number 9, is another film from the Chattanooga Film Festival. This one is a documentary. It's Wolfman's Got Nards.
Yeah.
I would just preface this by saying that I think a lot of what I will say about Wolfman's Got Nards could also be said about another documentary I caught there, Life After Flash, by Lisa Downs, which is about Flash Gordon and the person who played him and his life in the aftermath.
Hey, he's talking about 2 movies.
He's cheating.
I'm not. Whoa.
Frankly,
He's catching on.
Wolfman's Got Nards doesn't have distribution here in the States, and you should not be able to talk about it.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah, let's roll sharp.
He pulled it. He pulled that card.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm just saying, you had to be at Chattanooga to see it.
Okay, Gambit, put your cards away.
Just
Nobody likes you.
Oh, man,
You're
that's
not
rough.
fun.
Nobody does that.
Gambit's
Your accent is
Gambit thinks he's a lot of fun.
offensive.
All right, so Wolfman's Got Nards. Mouth dork. I will focus on that.
It's a great movie.
It is a great movie. But so it's directed by Andre Gower.
Just saying, it doesn't count.
You woke that bear up, Billy.
No, I know. I poked that bear until I woke him up, and I'm gonna keep doing it as this goes by, and I'm just gonna pay a goddamn
Be the
price
Revenant
for
by
it.
the end of this episode. You'll be the Revenant by the end of this episode.
The movie is an exploration of the 80s film The Monster Squad. And it is directed by Andre Gower, who played Sean Crenshaw in that movie. And it's shot and edited by Henry Darrow McComas. The thing that stands out to me about it, The Monster Squad was not a childhood film for me. It's something that I came to, 5 or 6 years ago. And realized that it was just one of those ones that just missed me by, and because it's in the zeitgeist, I was like, oh, the Monster Squad, I know what that is. Wolfman's Got Nards, literally, Wolfman's Got Nards. You feel like you've seen that movie, and then I realized I hadn't, so I sat and watched it. It was also one of the first, I would say, scarier movies that I showed to Claire, and she had nightmares for like 2 weeks because those fucking pterodactyl things or whatever at the beginning of that movie.
So good.
Yeah, that put a real stop on sharing scarier movies with her because of the nightmares. Because she wakes her mom up when she has nightmares. She don't wake me up.
Based on your podcast with your daughter Claire, I don't think
We've gone places.
Kind of slow things down, but
still waiting on
but-
that show
revenge
kept
episode.
going.
Yeah, it keeps happening. But I think what I like about the movie in itself is that, kind of like what we're doing right now, we're talking about movies that that we experienced in 2018. I recognize that this one isn't released in 2018, but we are talking about our very current films and our relationship with them that we just caught in passing as we went through this year. But movies like The Monster Squad, even though it isn't exactly so for me, are ones that capture people's imaginations in their childhood, and their relationship with that movie changes and matures as they go through their life and they look at it differently. And then they share it with their kids, which is something that I was able to do. And I think the documentary does a really great job of capturing that aspect of a movie's life, and looking at the changing relationship of it with the people who love it and what they think of it now, and they contextualize that against what the filmmakers think of it now, with some really fascinating conversation about where they are right now versus where they were, what their hopes and dreams were for the film, and whether or not that was particularly realized. I think it's a very interesting piece that is not just about the Monster Squad, but about how we consume movies and how those individual movies evolve with us and what they mean to us later on, whether or not that's for the better or for the worst.
And if you haven't yet already, we talked to them for this podcast, so you can listen to that episode about 6 months ago.
Yeah. And Andre Gower and Henry McComas. Yeah, thank you. Because he always puts his three names, and then I want to say the three names. It's Henry McComas. But those guys are just lovely to talk to. And I think that their passion both for the film and for movies in general are something that are very much a match to me. That, you know, they want to celebrate this experience that we have at the cinema and put that out for people to see. And they've chosen, because of Andre Gower, a very personal reflection on his part.
All right, good pick. I still need to see that documentary.
It's so good.
Looking forward
You're
to
gonna
it.
love it.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
Shane Black's in it.
Yeah?
Yeah, and Shane Black usually does not like to talk, or once upon a time he didn't like talking about Monster Squad, but they got him and he was happy and cheery and had fond memories of that film.
Yeah.
Very interesting conversation.
Very interesting.
Oh, okay. Now I'm really looking forward to seeing it. All right, I just want to say, while I did have the month wrong for Deadpool 2, it is the first movie of the year that chronologically it's everything's in order.
Well, Brian, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, I mean,
I'm just saying, no, whatever month it came out, Brian was not wrong. But as far as the order of movies I want to talk about,
correct you as far as the release date.
That's cool. I'm going to edit it out anyway, so they'll never know I was wrong. All right, that's the power of the editor.
He won't edit it.
I'm going to do it just for that. It's going to be an odd episode in the beginning. Anyway, my next pick chronologically is Upgrade.
Yeah.
Lee Wanell's little science fiction, / horror, body horror picture that came out earlier this year.
Yes, that was June 1st.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Nostradamus. All right, look. So
Nostradamus is the future.
yeah, Brian knows everything.
Brian knows the past.
The past.
But
It has to happen before I know it.
Oh,
And the future, because he
Poor
knows
Jared.
movies that are coming out.
oh, okay. All right.
Poor
Wrong
Jared.
2 times. All right. So every pick, I'm gonna say something and be wrong about it just to even it out. All right.
A lot of pressure on me, though,
No,
to correct you.
That's good. So I enjoyed this film very much. So I talked about it when I reviewed it when it came out. I saw it earlier this year. It's a low to moderate budget science fiction film directed by Lee Wanell, who cut his chops on the Insidious franchise, and I want to say in the Saw franchise.
Yeah,
as
he
well.
wrote them.
Yeah, with James Wan. And this is his directorial debut. It's about a guy who his wife is murdered, and he's effed up pretty bad, and he's given a second chance by way of some bio-cybernetic enhancements. There is a technology called codenamed STEM, or named STEM, that is placed on his brainstem or in the back of his head or what have you, and it's an artificial intelligence that controls or can take control of his body. And I'm not going to spoil the film if you haven't seen it. It's out on home video. It's available to stream and rent. I will say, it, for a low or moderate budget science fiction film, what Lee Wanell was able to do, at the very least conceptually, and then marry that with some really good character work by Logan Marshall Green. Is that his name? Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
And what's the lady from Get Out? Who's the police officer?
Goodness, I don't know her name offhand, but she
I
was.
bet you if I'd have said the wrong name, you would have knew the right name.
Possibly.
She's in the film as well. She's great in the movie. Lee Wanell brings his horror sensibilities into play fairly early on in the movie with the death of Logan Marshall Green's wife, but more so once the STEM technology is fused with him and how it takes over and goes apeshit from time to time. There's some really gnarly practical effects work in the film, and I like the future that Lee Wanell realizes cinematically. It's not far in the future. We're not talking Blade Runner 2049. We're talking maybe 10, 15, 20 years down the road from where we are now. So there is a familiarity to kind of keep things grounded, but every once in a while he will add some technological flourishes to give us the idea that, in some regards, in some spaces in our society, technology is advancing further than where we are currently. And I really appreciated that. He does some very interesting things with the camera to sell the fact that there is a technological entity in Logan Marshall Green's character. And then the performance of Logan Marshall Green to be able to portray a guy who at times does not have control over his physical movement, but still has control over his facial expressions that are not aligned with what his body is doing, I found extremely effective. I'm not going to shit on Venom, but I will say if you dig Venom and what's going on with the character that Tom Hardy's playing, Eddie Brock, and how he is within that body, there are two dueling entities. If you dig that, I think you will really enjoy Upgrade, where I feel it's done to much greater effect, and a lot of it has to do with the performance. And I can't believe I'm saying that because I love Tom Hardy, and he's a phenomenal actor. But
it's so weird how people go, say that Logan Marshall Green is like the low rent Tom Hardy, and then this year these two movies come out. Very strange.
But I will say that what he and Lee Wanell are able to do, working in tandem, I found extremely effective and entertaining. So if you can seek it out, please do so. Like I said, it's readily available, and it's a really good film.
And we also love Logan Marshall Green in The Invitation.
That's right. Yeah. He's great in that movie too.
He's a great actor.
Betty Gabriel is the actress from Get Out and Upgrade.
Yes, and you know what? Shame on me. I told Brian this yesterday. When I saw it theatrically, I didn't even recognize her as being the same woman from Get Out. She's a phenomenal actress. I like seeing her. I want to say she's also in Altered Carbon, Brian, as a futuristic like police detective. So I like seeing her in things, and so hopefully I get to see a lot more of her. But yeah, that's going to be my number 9 Upgrade. All right, B, your number 8.
So my number 8, let me look at my overall list here. It is number 24, so it did crack my top 25 if we're going by that standard. As of right now, nothing has been changed, has been bumped. Lisa, not yet, but it is You Were Never Really Here.
That's a good pick.
Yeah, this movie, we saw it originally, I think, at Lost Weekend 9 back in February.
We were sponsors of it, Brian.
Yes, we were. We were. That was our sponsored film at Lost Weekend. And when this movie ended, this had an elongated effect on me. Like, it didn't really hit me the moment I saw the film, but it was a movie that stayed with me for an extremely long time. And I didn't get it. I have the film on Blu-ray. I didn't buy it immediately when it came out, but I just recently purchased it, and I rewatched it again maybe a couple weeks ago, and I really took to this film a lot more this time around. I mean, for me, it's really just it's Lynn Ramsey and it's Joaquin Phoenix. And Lynn Ramsey, when we look at her filmography, I mean, for me, I've only really seen We Need to Talk About Kevin. And the way Lynn Ramsey is able to kind of take like these very damaged characters and bring them all the way up to this point of despair and this darkness. And she does that with the character of Joe, where he's having this tightrope of between life and death. And we see flashbacks of like some stuff that he went through as a child, some stuff he went through in the military, and how that has been affecting him, and how he is kind of, playing around with this idea of these suicidal thoughts and playing with death. And he's a hired gun who goes to kind of rescue trafficked girls. And Lynn Ramsey is really able to kind of explore this character in a really interesting and deep way. That I just found it to be really effective, and I've connected it even on a personal level. Not saying I'm a hired gun, but just,
you could be.
I could be. You never know.
What?
Hate to break this to you, Billy. No, but I don't know. It's like like even like with myself personally dealing with like with my own issues of depression and seeing how she takes a lot of this stuff and explores that with the character of Joe and him feeling like he has these this unfinished business, like he desperately wants to not be on this earth, but at the same time he feels like he has a duty to save these women, these girls, and when you get to like that final scene, it's that shit just hit me in a completely different way. Watching that movie, it's a profound film.
The scene that has stuck with me to this day that I think about the most in that is some stuff goes down in his house, and he does battle with a guy, and he mortally wounds him.
Yeah.
And he lays on the floor of his kitchen next to him. Like he makes the guy comfortable that he's killed, but he just lays with that guy and sits with him while he dies.
Yeah.
Like the layers of like the psychology that's going on in Joaquin Phoenix's character in that movie. I just occasionally find myself chewing on that in the back of my head of like, what are they trying to show with this? It's amazing.
I mean, in just the little moments, like when he's standing at the door when his mother's in the bathroom and he takes the little knife and like dropping it at his foot, or playing with the plastic bag around his head. It's like I don't know. It's just I find this film fascinating to watch, and I mean, again, the music I thought was it evokes. It reminded me a little bit of Drive. A little bit with the music and even the character of Joe and Ryan Gosling's character from Drive a little bit, how they're kind of disconnected from the rest of the world in that way. I don't know. And then like the way she plays with the editing, there's moments in the movie at times when Joe is walking about the city and they'll go to a perspective from another character, and like he'll go through a door or you'll see him somewhere and you'll see it from their perspective and he won't be there. So it's almost playing with this idea of like how he feels if he wasn't here on this earth, or how like is he really making an impact on what he's doing. It plays with a lot of different things that I just find really, really fascinating.
I totally get where you're coming from with the Drive comparison. Yeah. What's weird to me is I had a similar thought, but not with Drive, but with Nicholas Winding Refn and Ryan Gosling's other film, Only God Forgives.
Haven't seen that one.
Yeah,
that one I haven't seen. Yeah. Okay.
Just the way that both of those individuals are deteriorating because of their life of violence.
More Only God Forgives for me because of his Ryan Gosling in that is constantly reflecting on the violence that he's done to others and how much of a burden that is to carry around, and that layers over directly.
That's a hell of a double feature.
I would watch the fuck out of it. Let's do that right now.
I don't know how we'll feel after it, but
very sad.
I got to go back and rewatch that one. I got Festival Fog.
Oh, okay.
Trying to remember that.
At our sponsored film, come on, D.
Man, I'm just so many movies, man, so many movies. But I'm due for a rewatch of that. Because I remember enjoying the film, seeing it initially, but I just don't remember much from the film now.
Yeah. Lisa was the same way.
Yeah,
she got snoozy during that movie.
I did get a little snoozy. It was one of those where it felt like it was gonna be vomity, and it was vomity. Yeah. So I kept on closing my eyes a lot from fear, and then I just ended up just falling asleep. Not the first time that's happened. Not gonna be the last time.
All right. What do you got for your number 8?
For my number 8, I've got a foreign film. Does not currently have distribution in the United States.
Oh.
But I did have
I'll allow it.
Because I'm your wife. He doesn't want to sleep on the couch. I got to see it at Fantastic Fest. Yeah. And I feel like I am the only person who saw this movie. And that movie is Dog.
Oh, okay.
So this is a French film directed by Samuel Benchetrit.
Yep.
That is not a French name. But anyway, I'm just saying. Okay. But he's the director, and he wrote the screenplay. And I didn't realize this. In prepping, I saw this. He also wrote the novel. And I would read the shit out of this novel.
Oh, wow.
Not currently in English. So either I have to brush up my high school French or I don't have that much time to spend on Google Translate. So this movie is about this guy named Jacques, who's played by Vincent Kenya.
Just call him Vinny.
You can look at the IMDb. That's what I did. And his wife is kicking him out of the house because she says she has an allergy to him.
Oh.
But he finds out through his bank, weirdly, that they're getting a divorce, and she was not very straightforward with him. And he is devastated, and he has a son with her, and he's being very emotionally distant. And so Jacques decides to get a dog because kids love dogs, and he needs something to love. So he goes to this pound, and there's a guy named Max, who's played by Booley Lanners. I don't know. All of my pronunciations are not good. Yeah, so, and he's kind of surly, and he's like, you're going to get a dog? Well, you need all of this stuff, and you need 10 weeks of training classes with me. And so the guy's like, sure, okay. And so he signs, he writes him a huge check, and he brings his little chihuahua home. And on the way home, the dog is run over by a bus.
Oh, no. Jesus.
And so the guy is like, okay, now I have all of this stuff, and I have these 10 weeks worth of dog training classes. And he has no one in his life. So he's like, okay, well, I'll just go to the dog training classes. And Max is like, well, you can't take the dog training class. You don't have a dog.
Wait, so you said earlier that he got the dog, and you said kids love dogs. So he bought it for the kid? Or
he bought it for himself as a means to get his kid to hang out with him.
Gotcha, okay.
So,
and this is only like in the first 5 minutes.
First 5 minutes. This is all just plot setup.
Okay.
So, he goes to take these dog training classes, and Max is like, okay, if he's paid for the classes. There's no return for the classes. He's like, okay, I will let you attend 10 weeks worth of dog training classes if you are my dog. Damn. And you'll be the example, and then you can take the class. And so he's like, sure. So he's taking the class, and Max is very commanding, and so he does end up getting a little bit trained as a dog. But then the line of reality and fantasy kind of get blurred, and he starts to
for him or for the audience?
For both, frankly. Where he doesn't know, like, he starts thinking, well, am I a dog? And that's what the movie's about. Okay. And what I love about this movie, it's darkly funny, it's utterly sincere. And what I like about this movie is it's really about our expectations of inviting love into our lives. Like, when you get a dog, you have certain expectations on the dog and how the dog is going to be and how the dog is expected to love you and how you are expected to love the dog. And it's the same with people in your life. When you're bringing people into your life, you have your expectations that you're putting on them, like, unbeknownst to yourself and them. And it's really about, like, going, what should we do with these expectations, and are these expectations reasonable? And I just loved that it really got me thinking about that. So that's it's number 22 currently on my list. Okay. That is with the support the girls upset. So yeah.
All right.
Lisa loved this film so much.
And I kept wanting to talk to people about it at Fantastic Fest, and nobody saw it but me.
You're the only one that saw it. Okay.
Hopefully not in the whole world.
No.
But
there were other people in the theater with you.
I just, get a phone call. Hi, I'm whatever the French name was. You're the person who saw my movie. It's so great to hear from you. I can't read your novel.
All right, B, your number 8.
For my number 8, I'm picking a film that I watched this morning. That really, like, surprised me. The reason I watched it today, because I started to see it pop up in a few top 10 lists, and I was just like, oh, maybe I should get this in.
I know where you're going.
It's Bart Layton's American Animals.
Yep, I saw it last night.
Oh, did you watch it last night?
Yeah, I did. Because I saw your letterbox this morning, and I was like, oh, I just watched that last night.
So I gave it 3.5 stars. What
Me
did you
too.
give it
3.5.
So incredibly compelling film.
Now I don't know if the narrative has been told like this with documentary and narrative together.
Well, yeah. So let's talk about that. Right? It's director Bart Layton.
Yeah.
I knew him he made this documentary called The Imposter, which is like one of the most compelling documentaries I've experienced.
Okay.
Highly recommend The Imposter.
Okay.
And Brian, if you like this movie, you should watch The Imposter.
Okay.
So he is telling a story narratively. However,
with actors.
Yeah, with actors. Yeah. The movie stars Evan Peters, Quicksilver. Barry Keoghan from Dunkirk and The Killing of the Sacred Deer.
Yeah.
Yes.
But on top of that, it's intercut with talking head interviews with the people who were involved in the actual event.
Yeah.
So it is a mix of fiction and interview.
Yeah.
Now, whether we believe what these guys are saying or not. And the general premise is these 4 college kids in Kentucky. One of them is an art student, and he goes on a tour of the library at his university and discovers that there's some rare books, some first edition Charles Darwin's. There's this manuscript that contains actual Audubon paintings, those bird paintings, and it's worth millions of dollars.
Yeah, I think it was $12 million it was worth.
That's what they say in the film.
Yeah.
And he goes to his buddy Warren, played by Evan Peters, and tells him, there's this book in our library that's not really guarded at all, just by one librarian.
Yeah.
And it's worth $12 million. And Warren goes, we could steal that. And then the film is about how these 4 guys conspire to steal these rare books. There's a scene where Warren goes to Amsterdam because of a contact with a fence, and there's a buyer in Amsterdam, and that buyer is played by Udo Kier.
Yeah.
And it's like one scene, and you're just like, oh man, I love Udo Kier. Put him in every movie.
It's so interesting. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I just don't want to spoil.
I know. I don't want to spoil, but it's interesting the way they tell the story because on the documentary side, when they're talking to the actual people that are involved in the event, they're recounting the story from their point of view, but that also plays through in the narrative
so
as
the
well.
narrative will shift as it's going.
Exactly.
It'll change and adapt to different points of view of the story.
It's fascinating.
So, like, cinematically, it's really invigorating.
Yeah.
I have a weird feeling about this movie, though, personally, because here's an event that happens. It is a crime that they commit, and things do not go well because they are dumb kids, and people get hurt. And they do serve a sentence, and we learn that what that sentence is, and they get out of jail, and then they basically go about their normal
Living
day
their
lives.
Yeah.
I call this film White Privilege the movie.
I can see that.
And like I get done
that.
with this film, and they got paid to be in this movie. They're profiting off of this event, this dramatic thing that happened, and they're working out their problems through a lens. And it's just, it left me feeling a little weird.
It left me feeling the same way, but it also made me want to see that other movie, like what happens after this event, like when they were in jail or what they're like, because they even talked to the librarian.
I knew nothing about the actual story.
Me neither.
So and the way the film, as it progresses, then introduces actual interviews. So so you'll meet the character fictionally, and then at a major turning point in the narrative, you'll now meet, the librarian. So as a piece of art, it is incredibly engaging, unlike anything I've really seen before. But then again, morally, how do I feel about this piece of art?
I feel the same way. Because like you say, like they commit this horrible crime and it goes bad, but it's just like, okay, they serve their time and they come out and, they're given their little wording as far as like where they are now.
Yeah, their title cards.
Yeah, their title cards. And I'm like, okay. It's like they're going about living their regular lives. And you're right.
Yeah, their parents are a little upset.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay. wonder what would have happened if somebody else had committed this crime.
Yeah, but you're right. It's a fascinating film. It's unlike anything I've seen before. Like, I was thinking, like, narratively, I've never seen a story told this way.
Yeah, and what's also kind of odd how the film starts, where it says this is based on a true story, and then suddenly the base stuff gets kicked out, and it's like, this is a true story.
Yeah,
you're like, okay.
Is it like I, Tonya? Only instead of the interview portions there played by actors, it's interview portions played by the
like
people.
if it was really Tonya Harding.
I mean, yes, in a way. Only it's more bizarre because they are. We were talking about before we recorded. It's a glorified reenactment,
right?
Yeah, that's how I felt too.
It's strange and odd, but damn it, if I didn't come away going, that was a good time at the movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it like the episode of Gilmore Girls where Rory and Logan steal a boat and so she has to live with her grandmother?
Kind of. Actually, yes. It's a little bit like that. Grandmother's the pen, the Fed, the state pen.
And the grandmother finds out she's having sex in the boathouse, and so she moves her into the big house.
This is the problem with Lisa doing Gilmore Girls rewatches every year. It always seeps in podcasts.
Sorry.
I definitely recommend though American Animals, and it's I rented it on iTunes because it was 99 cents.
Yep.
And so I was like, okay, let me just go ahead and watch this because I heard the same thing. People have been touting this movie all year long, and I was like, all right, let me go ahead and check this movie out.
Yeah.
So
All right. Your number 8, Billy.
So my number 8 is also going to be a foreign film, but I feel like a bunch of people saw this foreign film. It was The Night Comes for Us, written and directed by Timo Gianto.
nice.
Gianto? Yeah, I feel like I got that.
Gianto?
Gianto? Gianto? No. Yep. I should have just let it go. I got 80% there, and that was enough. But no, it's Timo worked with. In fairness, Timo has a tweet on his Twitter account where he puts phonetic spellings of Joe Taslim and Iko Uwais, and when it gets to his name, it's Timo for fucking forget about it. So. Like I was gonna say that, and then I realized, well, that's maybe the joke too far. Because if you haven't seen that tweet, that's not appropriate.
Thank you for explaining it to us.
You're welcome. So that's the thing that happened on Twitter. That's my number 8. No. So Timo worked with Gareth Evans on the Raid films, and this action-packed film follows very much in the blood-soaked style of what has come before for that.
He also did him and his brother. He also did Killers. Did you see that one?
I haven't seen Killers yet. I need to see it.
Yeah, they're heavy into horror. Yeah.
Maybe you can do that on your podcast, The Adventures.
Do not watch Killers yet with Claire. Maybe on her 16th birthday. Yeah.
I would show her the night comes for us. I mean,
you should.
It's explicit extreme violence, but
it's really about friendship.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of a story of friendship gone wrong, and what happens when you
what happens when you don't love your friends enough?
Yeah. What happens when you don't love your friends enough, and one of you goes out and joins an international hit squad of remorseless murderers, and the other one just really wanted that fucking job.
Yeah.
Wow. So there's a lot of dark shit that goes on. Actually, when you look at the plot of that movie, it's pretty crazy. That none of the characters are actually, I think, particularly good people. But it's definitely a story of people trying to find the best in them. But the fucking fight sequences that they put through in that movie, I genuinely, when I watch The Raid, or especially The Raid 2, I look at those action sequence to action sequence thinking that they cannot sustain the pace that they open with. And boy, gosh, do they.
The Meat Locker.
Meat Locker.
So good.
And that's in the
and
first
then
half.
The smashy fridge.
Yeah.
The smashy fridge. Tax in the face.
How about the entire life and death of White Boy Bobby? Their whole apartment fight sequence,
wow,
where they just steadily get the shit beat out of them by hundreds of these guys that come up the stairs
and
gals. Well, I think honestly the best fight sequence of that movie is the gals of the film.
Julia Still. She is a monster in this film. Give her own movie. God damn, she was badass in this movie.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Her battle against the other 2 women enforcers is, bar none, the gnarliest, fucking meatiest fight of that entire movie. It is crazy. I think the only other single moment of that movie that like made me stand out more is when Joe Taslim started killing people with a pool table.
Oh, that was pretty great.
You get hit in the face with a pool ball. You really feel that when that happens.
My favorite kill in the film is the cow bone being used as a dagger.
Yeah.
Yes. Those guys, they like their knife usage, and they like all of the makeshift knives that you could possibly find, and use as knives to just shred people.
You can stab someone so many times before they die. So many times at multiple places and depths.
And it turns out that Timo knows that very well, especially as these guys they do human pincushions as they go through, especially in that apartment scene where they're fighting.
Oh yeah.
I will say, if you like that characteristic about the film, the Mo brothers, again, that's his horror. That's the horror experience trickling over into the action genre, because again, the killers. Also, the main killer is the man from Reno.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's the main killer, and the other guy who the other protagonist or whatever is he was the guy in the Raid 2 who he got injured in the driving sequence, and he went and sat on the couch and died. Those two guys are the lead. But anyway,
I think about that guy a lot. By the way, the guy who sits on the couch.
guy that sits on the couch. Yeah,
he's great in Killers. Anyway, the horror aesthetic that you see in The Night Comes For Us, it's all of that. There's no hand to hand combat shit. It's a serial killer movie, and they pull out all the stops and ways of maiming someone. Yeah.
Well, but like pulling out all the stops and ways of maiming someone, I like that their whole mentality is embracing how practical can we do this as we set this up. Like there are, I want to say multiple full body burns in The Night Comes For Us. They set multiple people on fire, and those motherfuckers are on fire. And I appreciate any movie these days that takes the time to actually set their actors on fire. Yeah. That is something that you don't see enough of.
I agree. All right, my number 8 is Hotel Artemis.
That's a good pick.
I still have not seen
it. It's a smaller indie smaller budgeted film. Sort of. How would you even genre wise? How would you even?
It's a science fiction action film.
Yeah,
that makes an action film.
I call it sci-fi.
You call it sci-fi?
I call it sci-fi.
Yeah.
So there are those elements in the film. Jodie Foster is in it.
Near future.
Dave Bautista is in it. Is it Brian
Tyree Henry?
Brian Tyree Henry is in it.
He's having a hell of a year.
Yes.
Yeah, Sophia Boutella is in it, and the lead. Goddamn, I can't think of his name. He was
Sterling K. Brown.
Sterling K. Brown
yeah,
is great in the film. This is a great cast. Do I spoil the cameo?
No. I mean, it's in the trailer. I wasn't going to spoil it because Lisa hasn't seen it yet.
Okay.
And she hadn't watched the trailer.
Gotcha.
The way the movie sets it up, it feels like a reveal, but because the trailer was just like, and then this guy. Okay. It's not a reveal.
I won't take that from you, Lisa.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. It's a great cameo. But yeah, it is a science fiction. There is some action, but it's a smaller scale film in that all of the events are relegated to either right outside the perimeter of the titular Hotel Artemis or within the hotel. And what I find most compelling about it is really the relationships between Jodie Foster and Dave Bautista, but also Sterling K. Brown's relationship with Brian Tyree Henry, who plays his brother in the film. And I all the performances were great. Just the production design to being on such a modest budget, I found really effective. And it's one of those films where, sort of similar to the recent Netflix film starring Sandra Bullock, Bird Box, where it's kind of high in concept because the concept of the Hotel Artemis within the world that is established in the film, it's kind of high concept, but they are able to take that high concept and then sharpen and narrow their focus on this group of characters in this one location within this world that's built. and I found that really effective.
Well, like the world, like you were saying about Upgrade, where he really, Leigh Whannell really builds a world in that. The Hotel Artemis world building is fantastic through production design and the way that they lean into that, especially the technology that they put on display, and how, like the future tech is nearly now, but also kind of dingy because it's a backdoor operation. It's really, really well done.
Yeah. I really enjoy that film.
Sophia Boutella has one of the best action scenes of the year.
Fucking right.
Oh man, she's
Don't cross my fucking line.
she's great in
So
that
good.
movie.
I told
yeah,
you.
so good. You
She's
know?
also had a great year this year.
Yeah. So that if you haven't seen it, also you Lisa, I think it is definitely worth checking out. It had a theatrical run, and I don't know what it did box office wise versus the budget. But I hope it's one of those films that will find life on home video, a wider audience on home video and on streaming services, and once it comes on cable or whatever, because it's definitely worth checking out for something unique in as far as like compared to other science fiction that comes out in the theaters. Like again, it's more. They do set up this world, this futuristic world, but again, the character work for me and everything that's good. And Dave Bautista, speaking of both he and Jodie Foster's relationship, their characters, he's great in the film. And this is someone who is primarily to the masses probably known outside of his WWE career as Drax the Destroyer, you know. And that character is as far as Bautista's performance is really specific, but Dave Bautista is able to show, in my opinion, he's able to make the character in Hotel Artemis its own and not just a variation of Drax. There is along with the world building of the film, there is a history in that character that comes through with his performance. A history between he and Jodie Foster's character. The production design and the world building, even more so than Upgrade, is one such that it sets up a world that I'm curious as to, man, what happened prior to this? Like, how did we get to this state of being with these people, this hotel, this world? There's so many different things in there that lend itself to more exploration. And I that is the reason why it's on the list, because I find myself going back to, man, it'd be cool if I knew what that was that brought them together, or brought him to be this way, or brought the state of this world to be this way. I want to see it fleshed out. And I think that's a huge compliment to that production team and everyone involved in that film. So
it was like watching John Wick. The first time you watch John Wick, where you realize the layer, like it just catches your interest and it makes you want to know more. It's a shame that that Hotel Artemis didn't catch the same heat that John Wick did straight off the bat.
Yeah. But I what we did get, and I do appreciate. So yeah, that's got to be my number 8. Brian, you're number 7.
All right, so my number 7 is a film recommended by Brad recently.
I'm so smart.
You are, sir. You really are. So my number 7 on my overall list right now is 23 on my overall list, and that is Hearts Beat Loud.
Yeah.
I really like this movie.
It was so sweet.
It was a really, really sweet film. Of course, we have Nick Offerman, who plays Frank Fisher, and he is a store owner. He's a record store owner in the neighborhood of Red Hook in Brooklyn, New York. And his daughter, Kiersey Clemens, who plays Sam, she has just graduated high school, and the movie takes place the summer before she's about to go off to college, where she's going to college on the West Coast. And it's just, the thing I just loved about this movie was really just the sweetness of their father-daughter relationship. Now, he's raising her as a single father because his wife, I don't want to give too much away. Well, his wife died. His wife died. I won't say how, but and he's raising her as a single father, and he has a love of music, and he's raised her to also have this love of music, even though she's going to school to be a doctor, I believe.
Yep.
And there's also a friendship he has with Toni Collette that could be a budding romance, but there's certain interferences in the way there. But again, just the dynamic between these characters and the fact that I could watch Nick Offerman and Kiersey Clemens make music during the whole hour and a half. Like the beginning of the film when they're kind of creating the song Hearts Beat Loud, and they're just kind of jamming out and finding the song. I love that scene so much. I was like, I want more of this.
Yes.
Like I could just watch that over and over again. Kiersey Clemons has a great story with she has a budding romance with Sasha Lane, who plays Rose
From American Honey.
Oh, that's American Honey. Yeah.
And
she's
Hellboy.
Hellboy. She's gonna be in Hellboy. And it's such an endearing relationship that the two of them have. That I really just kind of took to, like, watching them, and it just feels genuine and feels sincere. And Kiersey Clemons and Sasha Lane really sell those performances that I just really just connected and bought into that. And I just really dug this movie, and just the whole idea of music and how you use music to kind of to heal your own pain, and the pain that they have. Is I don't know. I just found it to be really sweet. A really sweet story.
When did you watch this?
A couple days ago.
Oh man, you could have found it really sweet earlier in the year when I recommended this shit to you by telling you it's fucking great.
I don't remember.
But you know what? Of course you don't.
When did you
Anyway,
ever
you know what?
recommend-
It doesn't even matter.
The important thing is I'm the smart one.
Right. Brad's a smart
man.
one.
I don't remember you recommending this to me at all.
Oh, okay. All right.
At
I
all.
think the mistake of the movie is they shouldn't have ended their set on Everything Must Go. They should have ended their set on Blink, the song that she wrote for her girlfriend.
Oh yeah.
Because that song was so great, and that moment
was.
so great.
That
and
was.
yeah.
Yeah, that was great. That was
And American Honey was all like welled up eyes.
I know.
They're
I'm
still
just like,
working on
I've
that
seen
set
you pull a
list.
tampon out.
Oh,
That's what I think every time I see her.
all right. Your number
It's
American
seven.
Honey.
American Honey.
I did not see
I
it.
haven't seen American Honey.
Well, now you know one really key element of it.
I watched another movie with that just recently, so
All right.
it's good. It's good to know that there's several movies with great.
All right. Wife door. You're number 7.
My number 7. Oh, what is my number 7? Oh, my number 7 is The Guilty.
Yeah.
I love this movie. I feel like I've talked about it a lot on the podcast, but I'm going to talk about it some more.
Yep.
Maybe for the last time. We don't know. But it was directed by Gustav Müller, and where is this movie from?
Denmark.
Denmark.
Yes.
And it's one of those bottle movies where you spend the movie in 2 parts of one office, and you're spending all of your time with one character, played by Jacob Settergren, Asger Holm. And Asger Holm is a cop, but he is working that night in an emergency services office, like the 911 of Denmark, which is 211. And he's mostly like just trying to get his day over with. He's bored. He thinks that everybody who's calling is an idiot, and he could be doing much better work if he was out on the streets doing his beat. But then he gets a call from a woman who feels she is in danger and feels she cannot speak freely. And she's in a moving vehicle. And the movie is about this cop trying to discern what the problem is, get this woman some help, take care of this problem. And he just feels like the other people involved do not care the same way that he does, and does not have the sense of urgency that he does. So he's going way above and beyond the call of duty, way above and beyond what's maybe morally right to rescue this woman. And what I love about this movie is that it's like Searching, where the different elements of the film are kind of unrolling themselves, and you're putting the pieces together in real time with Asger. But also it's a reminder of how limited our perspective is. And even when we have the best of intentions, we may not be doing the right thing. Yeah. And I had the privilege of getting to see this twice in the theater. I got to see it as part of Fantastic Fest. I got to see it as part of Lost Weekend 10. It is now available streaming on Prime. for $6.99.
It's funny that you brought up Searching, because also, like Searching, what the director of The Guilty is able to do, and in Searching, Brad talked about how with the 27-inch monitor real estate, how they are able to move about that real estate in such a dynamic fashion that it's not stale. And as you mentioned, The Guilty taking place in this singular location, they have so much coverage and so many different angles that you never feel like you're just in a cubicle with this guy at his phone at his desk the entire time.
Yeah, and there is a certain element of he's sitting at a computer,
Right.
and there is information, valuable information on that computer. So you also find yourself looking at the screens. There's so much of this movie is just anxiety, just waiting for certain people to call back, waiting for the phone to ring, waiting for someone on the other line to come back with information. And you're just, I hate to use a cliche, but you're literally like on the edge of your seat going, how is this going to turn out?
Yeah. 'Cause there's the constant the looming uncertainty. Like you said, waiting for the phone call. Is this person going to call back? When they call back, what are they going to say? And we're following along with him as well. So it's extremely effective. I have a question. So may or may not have heard about the announcement of the remake with Jake Gyllenhaal. What are your thoughts?
Look at her face. This is why we need to be on YouTube.
I think it's a great story, and I'm sure Jakey Jills can do a wonderful job. But this movie is so good.
And this
and
gentleman's
available.
his first film.
First feature film. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Straight out of
Film school.
Film school. Yeah.
So fucking crazy.
What I
that's how
love
good
about
it is.
this film is every time I talk about the plot with somebody who hasn't seen it, as I'm describing it, I'm seeing images of all the scenes outside of the 211. It's such a visual script. You are there on the other side of the phone.
You never see the people on the other side of the phone, but you are forced to visualize.
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
Like Asger, like him.
Yeah.
Especially with so many twists and turns in it. Yeah.
Great
Yeah.
pick.
What number is it on your overall list?
On my overall list, it is number 16.
Yeah, because I have it on mine at 15.
Nice.
I love this movie.
Mine was on 15.
All right.
Sorry.
Sorry.
What do you got, B, for your number 7?
Number 7, a film that had such a large reputation before I watched it. Because we're friends with so many movie programmers, they have opportunities to watch a movie and they say like, oh, Brad, you guys need to be on the lookout for X, or, oh, you got to avoid this thing.
Yeah.
And I talked to multiple folks who got the opportunity to watch it, and they described the experience of watching this film as horrendous. And when they left the theater, they could not possibly imagine what the filmmaker was thinking, and that it was complete trash. And only one person in their group saw the movie and even thought it was okay. And it's an embarrassing movie, just total garbage. And, when I hear that, I go, oh, total garbage, you say. I need to check that movie out. I probably would have watched it anyway, but walking into the theater, it was, arm crossed. All right, you better be total garbage, or I'm going to give those guys what for. And that film is Vox Lux. Yeah. Natalie Portman
I'm with you.
And wow, even watching the movie, I caught it on a Thursday night at Tyson's Corner Mall. I had a family behind me.
What?
And yeah. It was not like a young child, but it was like mother, son, and dad.
Okay.
And and they were talking the entire movie, which
Rude.
which was rude, but also kind of entertaining given the film and how they were like struggling to watch it. And then there's another guy in the third row, and I was in the fourth. I was like, that guy looks like Chris. Maybe that's physics. I don't know. But, well, of course, it's Thursday, Vox Lux. There's 5 people in the theater. Of course, it's Chris. And afterwards, we met up and had a conversation. And our first words exchanged were, what do you think about that? I thought it was pretty good. Yeah, I thought it was pretty good too. And I gave it 3 stars after my first watch.
Yeah.
But I'd probably give it 3.5 now.
Yeah.
And I just keep thinking about the movie. You know, if you've seen the trailer, which is a little misgiving.
Yeah.
It's you know it's about Natalie Portman. She's a pop star. She's losing her mind a little bit. She's maybe a little childish. And she's got a daughter, and she's screaming all the time. And there's going to be some, pop performances involved. What the trailer doesn't tell you, and I will spoil for you just the opening scene. Mm-hmm. It opens with a Columbine shooting. Mm-hmm. It's not the Columbine shooting, but it might as well be. And
because it's in 1999.
It's set in 1999. Yeah. There's a school shooting. It's really upsetting. Mm-hmm. It involves the character of Celeste, played at this point by Rafe Cassidy.
Mm-hmm. She's really good.
She was really good. And for,
really good.
I don't know, 30, 40 minutes of the movie, there's no Natalie Portman.
No.
It's all on her. It's her story recovering from this traumatic event and using music in a very different way to recover and put herself out there in the world. And it's kind of one of those rise and fall stories. You get fame, and fame corrupts. However, we eventually jump ahead in time. We meet Celeste, as played by Natalie Portman, the successful pop star, with her manager Jude Law, and now she has a daughter, and that daughter is also played by Rafe Cassidy. And they're building to the final her performance. Mm-hmm. There's some other stuff going on I don't want to talk about. And the film climaxes with this pop event, this Madonna-like show. Now, throughout the movie, there is this narration going on, being provided by Willem Dafoe.
Yeah.
And he's just credited as the narrator.
The narrator, yeah.
And the whole movie, you're listening to him, and you're going like, "This is kind of weird. Why are we listening to this guy?" And then you get to the end and the final narration, and you go, "I need to watch this movie again right now," because you have to completely rethink what you saw before.
Yeah.
And I loved that. I loved that the movie is not what I thought it was going to be, even based on the disgust of all these people who warned me about the movie. But even as I'm watching, I'm going, well, this is not terrible. But then you get to that ending, and you're like, this also might be great.
Yeah.
And I've really enjoyed digging into all the think pieces after watching the film. And I would point to one. Britt Hayes wrote an article over at Slash Film, and the article is called "Why Do People Love the Troubled Rock Star in A Star Is Born, but Hate the Troubled Rock Star in Vox Lux?" And I'll just put that out there. Watch the movie if you've seen Star Is Born. If you haven't, go watch that movie, and then read this article. It's pretty darn interesting.
Yeah, it's a movie I've been thinking about since I saw it too, and it's fascinating. It does make me want to rewatch the movie because that last narration, I'm like, wait, what?
I took so much delight in going to Brian Loy over at the Alamo One Loudon. And I was like, I saw Vox Lux. And he's like, yeah? I was like, I liked it. And he was like, ooh.
Oh, he loves it?
No, he hated it.
Oh, he hated it.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he hated it.
Oh, man.
And he had spoiled the whole opening about the Columbine-like shooting.
I picked that up in the trailer, though.
Well, you see, guns going off in the trailer.
Yeah, so.
But still, interesting.
Fascinating, yeah.
All right.
Not for everybody.
No, it's not.
All right, Billy, number 7.
So for my number 7, I am actually going to switch things up slightly in the way that I was going to order this list. But I wanted, amongst my picks for my not 10 was The Guilty. And I wanted to dovetail on to Lisa's.
You're welcome to dovetail on me. That sounds wrong.
You're not allowed to dovetail on my wife. Nobody's dovetailing on Lisa.
Well, number 1, she is the decider. And
I
number
have my
2, could
own
someone please tell me
agency.
what that means? Because I don't know if I'm pro or
It
con.
sounds really sweet.
It does. It would.
Doves are sweet animals.
They're
Woo uses-
peaceful.
Yeah.
They flutter.
No one's dovetailing on Lisa.
But I wanted to just explore a little bit of the core reason that it kind of made my list and captured it. And it was what Brad was talking about right at the end of that conversation, which is that the way that the story is told, it is incredibly visual. And I have had the same thing where I try and relate moments of those movies to people. And I messaged Brad at least once while I was, because I wrote a piece on him as a first-time filmmaker for Film School Rejects. And I messaged Brad and was like, hey, do you see this scene happen in the movie? Because I really wasn't sure if you saw it or not, and I needed to fact check it, and I didn't have immediate access to the movie. It's that good at crafting an image in your head. And the thing that I wanted to share was I did an interview with Ben Rock, the guy who co-wrote and directed the podcast series called Video Palace about a VHS collector. It's a scripted horror series about a VHS collector who finds a tape and he follows a tale and decides to make a podcast about it as he goes, because it's 2018 and that's what you do when you see weird shit. But while we were talking about it, I think one of the things that did really well is it put an image in your head, and we had a very interesting conversation about how a focus on the spoken word can be an incredibly effective visual storytelling device because of its way that it works with your brain's ability to put these images into their head. And I think that is something that Gustav Moeller does so effectively, that you could have told that story in any medium, in the way that they put the voice talent into what you hear on the phone line and the way that he speaks. Jakob speaks while you see him on screen, that you could have done without the visuals of that movie and still been incredibly involved in what was going on in that particular screen. That said, to Darren's point, the visuals of that movie, considering that it's a bottle film where they're just in one location, really are amazing, and they catch you by surprise. And I love it for its experimentation with storytelling and his comfort with experimenting with that type of like audio-based storytelling that will effectively put this image to your head as a first-time filmmaker, to me, is baffling. But whatever the fuck it is that he wants to do next, I want to see more of it, because I think that's an insanely bold choice to make, is like, hey, this is going to be my first feature. On the other hand, boy, we got a fucking room. We got a handful of people and some computers. There's nobody there. We've got some weekend nights that we can go in and shoot. It doesn't matter what time of day it is. You could shoot it on the weekends. I can't imagine what the budget of that film was, but I can imagine that it was for whatever money that they were finding in their couch. And yet they've come up with one of the most visually compelling films of the entire year. It's an amazing piece of filmmaking, and it's really, really bold choice making.
Yeah, I had a chance at see it at Fantastic Fest, and this movie just absolutely blew me away.
Were you there, Billy, at Fantastic Fest?
Damn. Revenant, I told you.
Here we go.
I told you, the Revenant.
There'll be some more real comments.
But I got a chance to ask him a question. We were sitting outside of the Alamo because I was too nervous to ask a question during the Q&A. So I saw him sitting outside by himself.
The director?
Yeah, the director.
Fuck.
Yeah,
Okay.
Gustav Moeller. So I saw him sitting outside by himself. I said, I need to ask him a question because this movie is just staying with me. Because for me, I think the movie towards the end has a really, really emotional impact for the character of Asger, and how this call that he's on is also affecting like part of his story as well, as far as like why he's a dispatcher at this moment. I'm not going to give too much away, but I was asking him like how did he craft the idea of trying to build the backstory for Asger to really have that emotional resonance for his character. And he was just saying like he would talk to a lot of guys in the field, like who were dispatch officers who've had calls like that before, and really just try to craft the story around that. And again, going to your point, like just taking what they had and trying to make a compelling story out of that. I just thought it was absolutely profound. And just like how you said, Billy, like anything he does next, I'm on board.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, for a movie that's so enwrapped in making you perceive something in your head, he doesn't just leave that hanging. I mean, philosophically, for what he's exploring in the movie, I mean, that's Asger's whole fucking problem, is that he's seeing pictures in his head as he's doing this, and it's just because you're seeing it in your head doesn't mean that that's how things are, and it's easy to make assumptions and then turn those assumptions into like facts that happened. And that's the way that your brain works. And like, there's some really interesting stuff I think that he explores in that way through the character work that goes on in that film. Yeah,
I think
it's really amazing.
Simple and plain. Like, The Guilty is storytelling in its purest form. Because you think about it, like back in the days when you're around the campfire or whenever, and someone's telling you a story, you do the pictures, you do the images, the cinematography in your head. When you listen to old radio programs, Little Orphan Annie, like you're listening, but you're making the pictures in your head.
That was, we when I was a kid, we took a lot of road trips, and I sat in the back of a van and driven through every state in the country. And one of the things that we would do is we put on like audiobooks and stuff, and like watching that movie was like a throwback to sitting in the back of the van while it's the sun's gone down, it's late, you're trying to find that fucking hotel that you're gonna stay at, and you're putting the last of the audiobook through. And it just hooks you.
But not for nothing, this movie is still incredibly visual.
Yeah.
And the way he shoots Asger in that room, and how, as the night progresses, the camera evolves.
There's a transition where you realize that there's like a red light flashing, and what he does with like zooms and shit, and the way that fills the
Zooms
screen.
and shit.
Zooms and shit.
Cinema.
Look, man. That's a technical term.
I like it.
Yeah.
All right.
That's my magazine.
Zooms and shit.
My filmmaking magazine.
If somebody had a magazine called Zooms and Shit, though, you would subscribe
I'm
to
subscribing,
it.
yeah.
You better subscribe to mine. People watch it.
It's my name. I said it.
All right, great pick. For my number 7, I'm gonna go with. This came out. Brian, you'll tell me because I really don't know. When did Blind Spotting come out? What month?
No.
It came
Don't
out
be wrong, Brian.
Wait, let me say that.
It came out the same weekend as Mission. July,
Okay.
the end of July.
So now I'm in July, and Blind Spotting. Seeing Blind Spotting so close to Sorry to Bother You, and both of those films take place and are birthed from the community in Oakland, California. And two different approaches to the issues that have been and currently do still plague that area and other areas across the country and the world. But I just found this film, both of the films actually, but this film specifically, since I'm talking about this one, to be another invigorating breath of fresh air in this year of cinema. And on top of the fact that it is dealing with relevant and current issues that we've been having and not facing and not looking at and not taking accountability for generations and years. And I like going to the movies to see like my big budget shit. I like going to the movies to see some new independent voices and new takes on subgenres and things like that. But every once in a while, I also like to go to the movies to see our society, myself, my surroundings filtered through the lens of cinema, and in the hopes that people who were ignorant to the plight of someone who is sitting right next to you, they have the opportunity to have their eyes opened, so that they can have a conversation, if not with that person that's next to them, at least, the very least, with themselves, and how they maneuver through this society. I don't want to spoil too much. I'll just say it's the story of two friends, one played by Daveed Diggs and the other played by Rafael Casal, and they are some movers in Oakland. And Colin is the name of the character played by Daveed Diggs, and he is in the last couple of days of his probation. He's trying to stay out of trouble so he could just move on with his life. And there is he's witness to a tragic incident that too many people, especially these last couple of years, have been witness to, and then with the advent of social media, like we've all been witness to these incidents, he is witness to that front and center. And on top of everything else that he has to deal with, he now has to contend with this and the potentiality for that could have been him. It could be him. And it's a fascinating discussion about not only race relations or the perception of people or gentrification. It's a very human movie and story, but it's told in such an interesting and unique way. That the use of rhyme, particular rap, like he and his best friend Mike, they freestyle back and forth to each other. They riff off of each other, and that in and of itself, for me, it just went a long way to solidify and cement their friendship and make it believable. The fact that you know someone so well that I can freestyle or just finish. Brian can finish my sentence, or I can finish his sentence, but we're doing it in rhyme, which earlier in the film you think that's just something that they do as buddies, but how that's used later in the film to such profound effect, it was almost like a gut punch to me. And I don't want to spoil the film. If you haven't seen Blind Spotting, at the very least, check this movie out before the end of the year, because it may be on your top 10 or not top 10, but it's definitely worth watching because it's worth the discussion. Again, whether it be a discussion with other people, which you definitely should have, but also within yourself. Yeah, man, we've had some extremely strong and loud voices from people of color, women filmmakers this year that are calling attention through entertainment, through film, to it's just holding up a current mirror to our society, and it's showing us things that we're currently doing, we have been doing, and maybe we should stop doing, or at the very least we should address our actions. Again, accountability. And I don't know, it's a movie that has those messages and themes but doesn't come across as preachy to me. Yeah. And so I think that for me, my hope is that that message and the themes become more palatable to a wider audience, because it definitely should be seen and talked about. And
it's incredibly entertaining and well done and performed.
The performance-wise, there are moments of humor in it, even though there are some heavy themes in it. It's balanced by moments of levity and there's heart in it, and there's hope. There's hope. The movie, it's at the very least in me instilled a sense of hope. Yeah, I was moved. I was moved by the film. So I had to have that on my list. All right, Brian, this is it. We're at our number 6, which is our final for this half of the Not Top 10.
Oh man, the pressure.
Oh
man, for the number 6 spot, a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Good spot.
You can do it, Brian.
You got it.
I believe in you.
So my number 6 is currently at number 22 on my overall list. It's a film that surprised me because I didn't even know the movie came out. It's A Simple Favor.
Oh man, dude,
the movie.
This movie.
You saw it, B?
Oh yeah.
I like this movie.
It's a hell of a watch.
I like this movie a lot.
Have you seen it? Has anybody else seen this movie?
I haven't seen it.
It's wild.
It's crazy. A Simple Favor. I kind of describe it as like the dark comedic version of Gone Girl.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
All right.
There is such a thing?
It
turns out.
Watch this movie.
It's directed by Paul Feig, and we know Paul Feig from doing a lot of comedies: Bridesmaids, Ghostbusters, Spy.
Wait, really?
Heat.
Yeah.
Directed by Paul Feig, and he plays with the tone because I think this is based off of a series of a
teen
novel. A novel. And the
Sorry, could you tell the contempt and disgust?
Is it a teen novel?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Disgust.
I don't know if it's a teen
Or it's
novel.
a woman's novel. No.
Ew, gross.
Yeah.
But I know the novel kind of skews more dark. And when Paul Feig got the script, he was like, well, we were able to kind of play with tone a little bit here, and he wanted to do something. He calls it a suburban noir, and which I kind of like that term. And it stars Anna Kendrick, who plays the character of Stephanie, who's kind of like this prim and proper single mom, and she's raising her son, and Blake Lively. And I'll get to Blake Lively because I love Blake Lively in this movie. I really, really do. And Henry Golding, who this was only his second film after Crazy Rich Asians, and Blake Lively kind of plays like this more kind of affluent. She plays the mother of the other son at the school, and her and Anna Kendrick formed this weird friendship that you wouldn't think that they would be friends in any other way, but she calls Anna Kendrick's character Stephanie to come pick her son up because she was like, I need you to do a favor for me, pick my son up, I'll come get him. But then she picks her son up, but she never shows up, and she's gone for like I think 5 days. So they go looking for her, and this mystery comes about. And I don't want to give too much away, but oh man! And then like the backstory for Anna Kendrick.
No, don't say it. Don't say it.
Man, no, I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna spoil that. But
I was wide-eyed watching this whole movie.
Man,
Yeah.
I absolutely loved it. And to get to Blake, man, people give Blake Lively a lot of shit over a lot of some of the roles, and I've always gone to bat for her. Even in The Town, I thought she was really good in The Town. But man, she is a scene stealer in this movie. She has so much charisma, so much. She's so magnetic on screen in this movie that like anytime she's not on screen, I'm waiting to see her character back on screen.
So since this is a suburban noir, is she the femme fatale?
You can kind of say that. Would you describe?
I don't want to say. To me, I watched the trailer and I saw it because I like Paul Feig, and I still don't know actually how I feel about this movie.
Okay.
I think I gave it like 2.5 at the end.
Really? Okay.
I'd probably revisit that rating.
Okay.
Because you just saying it brought like a tremendous jolt of electricity to me, to the memory of watching this film.
Yeah.
Because it is so wild.
It's a crazy film.
Yeah.
It's a crazy film. But I have so much fun watching this. I mean, I don't even know if fun is the right word, but man, Blake Lively, and she gets a chance to really kind of do some interesting things, because I don't want to give the second half of this film away, but she gets to do some interesting things acting wise.
I think
with her character. I just thought she was really
and
good.
Anna Kendrick get to do things that they've never done before in other movies.
Yeah.
And it's worth watching for that reason.
And it's
Well,
a
I
lot
hope
of
it's
fun.
nudity.
No, there is no nudity. Sorry, Lisa.
High five. But I mean, just to see Blake Lively make a martini and some of those outfits that she's wearing, like
That's like the opposite of nudity.
It is.
So Brad, when the movie is happening, are you? Oh, I know what's going to happen. I know where this is going. Are you like that?
Well, it's one of those where you think you do, and then something happens.
Okay,
You're
good.
just like, well, this isn't really what I thought I was getting
Okay,
involved
good.
in.
Okay,
and it's not a YA novel. I take back my teen. It's a Gone Girl novel.
Okay. Yeah, and again, this came out in mid-September, and I don't even remember. I may have saw like a trailer like before a film, and that was all I saw of it. But I remember seeing your rating. I saw Kern's rating, and I was like, oh yeah, this is a Paul Feig. And I was like, let me go check this movie out. And I went just, wanting to go just see something. And I went to the theater, and I was like, this movie is freaking awesome. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
It's a movie that would be fun to watch with friends.
Yeah, I think it would be. But
When you rewatch it, B, let me know. I'll watch it with
all
you.
right, I'll let
I
you know.
haven't seen it yet.
so that's my number 6, A Simple Favor.
All right, Wife Dork.
Yes. My number 6.
Yep.
Is a movie where every time this trailer came on, I was excited. I never not watched this trailer. And the movie ended up being number 19 on my top 25, and that is Bad Times at the El Royale.
Nice.
I enjoyed this movie. Of course, like the number one reason I love that trailer was Chris Hemsworth walking through a field of flowers. In the movie, he does a dance with pie that is indescribable. So
good pie
beautiful. My face, just now, I'm glowing.
He's not allowed to dovetail on you either.
But like there was a lot about this movie that lends to my aesthetic. It takes place in 1969, and the clothes are amazing. The color palette is just rich and oranges and mustards and wood, and it's just beautiful. And the idea of... I just strummed my microphone standy thing.
Stop it.
I'm so sorry. It makes me... when I think about Chris Hemsworth dancing with pie, this is what I hear in my heart. But this idea of this place, the El Royale, it is an interstate hotel. It literally is on the line between California and Nevada. California, the place of dreams. Nevada, the place of gambling and prostitution.
Yeah.
This place is literally neither here nor there. It used to be very glamorous, and it would attract, presidents and celebrities, but now it's just attracting people who are in the midst of that have secrets. They have shit that they are hiding, and for some reason that draws them to this place. They're in between bad and worse are these people. The cast, besides my tremendous crush on Chris Hemsworth in this movie, I also have a crush on Cynthia Erivo, who plays Darlene Sweet. She is absolutely... This is my favorite performance of hers this year. Spoilers, in part 2, you're going to hear about another movie she was in that I loved a lot. But I loved this character in that, of the people, she is the least evil. She is a singer who, because she's a woman of color and because she is not willing to compromise her ideals, her career is failing. And she is on her way to do a gig in Reno. And that's just in terms of, that's for her career-wise, scraping the bottom of the barrel. In this movie, shit goes crazy. And she gets mixed up in some stuff. And I love the way that her gift of being able to just fucking sing is used in so many different ways. She uses it for her career. She uses it to comfort herself. She uses it to comfort others. She uses it as a distraction. She uses it as a way to mask other sounds. She, this tool that has kind of been her cross to bear. She just wants to sing. She wants to make her art. She is just so adept with it, and she just uses it in all of these ways. And she ends up touching the heart of another really fascinating character in this movie, Jeff Bridges, who plays Father Daniel Flynn, who also has some secrets. So I found this movie to be really fun. I thought that there were a lot of surprises in this film, not just in plot-wise, but I like the way they used those cards.
Oh, yeah. Title cards
in between sections of the film. I found that really fun. I just really enjoyed this movie. It gets crazy violent at times. It gets it's an interesting movie. I would love to watch it again. I've only seen it the once in the theater, but I mean,
I was thinking out this is another one that I have festival fog with, but I do remember crying at the end. I remember enjoying the film and also, but definitely crying at the end. Like, holy shit!
Yeah, there's a lot of reveals, and I mean, everybody in this hotel has a secret.
Billy's on the edge of his seat.
You haven't seen it, Billy?
He hasn't seen it.
I haven't seen it.
I think Billy liked it.
I 1,000% want to see it, but you can't fucking rent it right now. You have to pay for it.
Yeah, it comes out January 1st.
Yeah, so it's going to be a miss for me until January the 1st.
There is an amazing mustard skirt in this movie that I want. I want the skirt Cynthia Erivo was wearing.
Yeah.
Like a pencil skirt in mustard. So good.
You said it was 19 in your overall?
Yep.
Yeah, I have it on mine at 30. But
nice.
Yeah,
all right. I can't wait until we can just, because all of our letterboxes lists. What?
I just like that exchange a lot.
I just like it. I like that you guys are like, oh, you're 19, I'm 30,
I'm looking forward to when we can all make public our letterbox list so we can compare and contrast. I want to see where Brian and I cross over.
I love comparing our top 10 lists. It's why I'm so giddy when you say like 19 and 30. I'm like, ooh, I love this experience. I'm sorry if I shamed you for your conversation.
I wasn't shaming at all. I thought it was delightful. That was a laugh of delight.
You're number 6, B.
Oh, my turn?
Yeah.
Like 2018, like there's been a lot of talk that just superhero films are dead and they're gone, and there's no point in them continuing. They're not making any money, so they're moving on with superhero films after 2018.
Who said that shit?
Well, because one of the best films of 2018 made almost no money at the box office, and where this film went, the entire genre will go. And of course, we're talking about Teen Titans Go to the Movies.
For the sake of brevity, that's my number 6 too. So I'll just go along with you, B.
Okay, I thought you were going with Venom. Sorry.
No. See, Teen Titans Go to the Movies. This was a film I practically had no interest in seeing. I've never seen an episode of the cartoon. At the time, I did not appreciate or even like the animation style.
Yeah.
And it looked like one of those films that, or one of those animated cartoons that gets its jokes from fart gags. And I'm not saying it doesn't open with a fart gag. It totally does open with a fart gag. It's a pretty good one. I appreciate it here.
It's only one, right?
Well,
maybe two.
No, there's a couple excrement related jokes in this. But on top of those excrement related jokes,
I'm worried about your farts.
I know.
is the fact that this movie manages to mock and ridicule the genre, both the film version of it as well as the comic book version of it, and heighten and celebrate the genre. And it's a true like delight of a movie that has a message to it as well. You know, Robin is always been in the shadow of Batman. They're making movie after movie after movie about Batman, and even Alfred is getting a movie, and the Batmobile's getting a movie. When is Robin going to get a movie? So
the utility belt got a fucking
utility belt got a movie, and Robin wants one, and he's desperate to get one, and so he has this idea. Well, me and my superhero team, the Teen Titans, we need to find a villain. Slade. And his buddies, the Teen Titans, they don't really care, but they love their buddy Robin, so they're gonna go help him find their villain, get to Hollywood, and have their own movie made. And it's every 5 seconds there's a joke. So okay, you don't like that fart joke. Okay, you don't like that toilet joke, but there are so many gags you're gonna laugh at least 2/3 of them.
Yeah.
And even if you only laugh at 1/3 of them, you're still laughing a ton.
Yeah.
And there is one joke in this movie, which we talked about on one of our Weekend Dorks. It is the darkest, most brutal joke in a kid's film.
But it is the best joke in this fucking movie.
It's so great. It's so great. And it is like 1 second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I blind bought this movie based off of you guys because I didn't see it in the theater, but I was like, okay.
Yeah, you and nobody else.
Yeah, so I went when I saw it on Blu-ray.
Or everybody else.
Dude,
I don't
everybody
know how
else, yeah. And I know the moment that you're talking about because when I saw it, I literally bust out laughing. I was like, wow, you're right. It's only a quick second.
It's the equivalent of a comedian coming out and just saying a punchline and that punchline killing.
Yeah. And, you know, I saw it, not a full house, but it was a healthy crowd, and it was mostly kids. But watching the movie, I just thought, you know, they need to promote this to, like, all the 40-year-old nerds out there, because it slays.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, no one went and saw it, and so superhero cinema's dead now.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Oh, wow.
I saw it. I loved it. All right, Billy, your number 6.
All right, so my number 6 is a movie that I saw just a few days ago. And before I had seen it, it was one that I think had a reputation for being particularly divisive. You either loved it or you hated it. And that one is Assassination Nation, which was written and directed by Sam Levinson, son of Barry Levinson. But the conceit of the movie is that there's a hacker on the loose, and he starts outing people's private information, their texts, their chats, their browser history, all that sort of stuff. And it starts out with 1 or 2 people, and you watch their town respond to it in the same way that you would watch people respond to something being outed like that on a platform like Twitter, where outrage roils up and comes to the top, and anger and frustration.
Way before there's any consideration of another human being on the other end of that
Fucking
shit.
exactly. It doesn't matter what the exact offense is. One of the people's things that are outed is a principal of the high school's information is outed, and it is photo history. He has a picture of his 5 or 6 year old kid in the bathtub, and he is immediately labeled as a pedophile and a sex abuser and somebody who shouldn't be around kids. And there is zero consideration or exploration of that information, whether or not anything else is there to be discussed or considered. And it is immediate rage. I think in terms of what the movie is unconsidered anger, realized into a film. That's really what it is. And I think that you find in many things that type of anger is often directed at the people who can least defend themselves from it or find themselves the most easily judged by it. And the core group of characters in this movie are a group of 4 high school girls. And the things that they experience through this are terrible and awful and upsetting. Like I said, I'd seen it a few days ago, so I'm still sort of processing through. I have some thoughts about it that I'm not totally sure where it sits for me, but it is definitely an engaging movie. And I think that the anger that the women show as they go through this movie and the storyline that they follow from the beginning to the end of it is very interesting. And I think if you follow along with those characters and you are supportive of them, it's very rewarding story to watch and listen to. I think the performances are amazing. One of the women one of the characters is a trans woman. She's played by a trans woman, and I really like that that's something that they bring into the storyline with it. I also really like that Sam Levinson cast a trans woman to play the role. I like that it's a very honest exploration of her experience with high school, and that it's a very honest exploration of her experience with rage and disappointment, and it's juxtaposed against the characters whose private proclivities are outed, and her reaction to that being out, I think, is very telling and very honest. So there's a lot to see on the screen there. It's interesting to me that it's written and directed by Sam Levinson, who's a white dude and a son of a rich family and all that sort of stuff. I would be curious to know what the writing process was like for him as he worked through those things. I would be curious to know what the cast's contributions to the film and how much was meted out on set versus on the page before he went to production. But that reservation aside, just the way that they work through anger in this movie is really something else. It's vicious and compelling, and it makes you want to think about this stuff after you're done with it. I wish I had more ability to kind of dig into some of the more complex sides of it, but it just hasn't sat with me enough, I think, at this point to work through it.
Yeah, I've been wanting to check that out. I might try to watch that soon.
Yeah, I'm going to watch it before we record our dorkies, just in case.
I mean, it's, again, with a lot of these movies, it's very easy to say, I don't think that this is for everybody. Yeah. I very much do not think that Assassination Nation is for everybody.
Oh, it's not. It's definitely not for everybody.
But I watched it having almost kind of like Brad watched Vox Lux, is that it was talked up to me as not a rewarding movie, and I was like, well, let's see what it's about. And I came out of it very much having appreciated kind of the storyline that I just went on that little journey. Like it's really quite something. I definitely recommend taking a look at it. Nice. It starts with a series of trigger warnings in the movie, which I don't really know how to like. I feel like they're making fun of trigger warnings. I can't quite tell, but they are honest. And they are multitudes. So there are many upsetting things that happen in this movie. And if you find some of those things upsetting, especially violence directed at women, I would be very mindful as you consider sitting down to watch.
But if you love the house that Jack built,
right? So, but if you're Brad, I mean, it's a teen movie, so I don't know, Brad, if you're really gonna like it. But you're teens. Definitely gonna love this violence against women.
Oh.
All right. Well. Not to drag this episode out, because like I said, my number 6 was also Teen Titans Go.
Yeah.
And everything that Brad said is correct. It's a not only is it a funny film, it's just a great comic book movie.
It's a great comic book movie.
With Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse also coming out this year, one of the things that is cemented definitely in my mind is that, as in Teen Titans Go, is the freedom that the medium of animation affords you when you are telling comic book based stories. You don't have to worry about, man, it's going to cost us so much money to do VFX work to realize this environment or this particular character of this size doing this much destruction, or there's no limits. The characters can look like they do in the comic books. They can exhibit their powers. You can have comic book characters that are super obscure and thrown in. You can have every DC character in the same shot in the movie theater watching, the Batman utility belt movie and shit. So
Jonah Hex.
Right. So you can't do that. We're not going to have that in a DCEU movie, but because of Teen Titans Go, you have them sitting next to, what are the astronauts that get
challengers from the unknown. That's my second favorite joke.
It's great, man. It's great. And so yeah, I am so grateful that this movie exists. It just filled me with so much joy. I'm thankful for Teen Titans Go. Man, it just barely made miss my top 10, my dorkies. It was a fight. It was a fight for a spot. And it wasn't for lack of trying. Like, this movie it definitely deserves a spot on my list. So yeah, that's my number 6. When we come back in the back half, it is go time. It is going to be our top 5, or our 5 remaining films that we want to discuss for our not top 10. So stay tuned and check that out. You can follow the Turtle Dork at the Turtle Dork on Twitter, at the Turtle Dork 1 on Instagram, and at Brian William Young on Facebook. Because you're sitting right next to him, I'm going to go with you, Billy Das. He's at WB Das on Twitter and Instagram. And Letterboxd?
Yes.
And that lovely young lady is at Sidewalk Siren and at Baked Dork on Twitter and Instagram. She's also at Sidewalk Siren on Letterboxd. Brad Gullickson is at Mouth Dork on all social medias, as am I, Darren Smith, the Disco Dork. That's going to do it for us. Thank you all for listening. And
before you go, Darren, I just want to say that we're recording this just a few days before Christmas.
Yeah.
And Darren came to the Dork Cave today bearing gifts for all of us.
He's our Santa dork.
Yeah, he's our Santa dork. And I just want to say thank you to Darren. He brought all properly thought of themed pop figures to each one of us. And thank you, Darren. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. That's my way of saying thank you for all that you've done for me throughout this year.
I'd like to say the same thing to you, but I didn't get you any
We didn't
pops.
get you Jack.
You've done so much for me, man. We're not even going to talk about it right now, so thank you. Thank you all for listening.
Happy holidays.
And then be on the lookout for part 2. Until next time.